Down in Harvey as well.
Good evening, everybody. It's Monday, October 21st, 2024, and this is a regular meeting of Moscow City Council. Haley.
Good evening. Please stand if you're able to join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, good, thank you. To lead us off, we have a proclamation tonight, and this is for Domestic Violence Action Month proclamation. Whereas domestic violence violates an individual's dignity, security, and humanity, and is a crime with sweeping effects on our community's safety and health, and whereas survivors of domestic violence should have help to find some compassion and healing that they deserve, and perpetrators of violence should be held accountable for their actions. And whereas all residents of Moscow should feel safe and at peace in their homes, and whereas our youth deserve information and education on healthy relationships, boundaries, and consent, and whereas Alternatives to Violence on the Palouse, ATVP, is committed to ending violence in our community through prevention education and has been providing services to those affected by violence for 44 years. And whereas a local coalition of organizations exists to directly confront domestic violence, including law enforcement officers, victims advocates, prosecutors, healthcare providers, faith leaders, and concerned Moscow residents. And whereas the city of Moscow is an important partner in ATVP's vision to create a community that is safe, equitable, and free from oppressions that lead to domestic violence. Now, therefore, I, Art Betke, Mayor of the City of Moscow, do hereby proclaim the month of October 2024 as Domestic Violence Action Month in the City of Moscow. And I encourage all citizens to reflect and to honor victims and survivors of domestic violence in our community, and also use this month to take action towards ending violence on the Palouse. Do we have somebody here to accept proclamation?
Yay.
Come on up. And here we go.
3 weeks earlier. It's the 21st.
What? Oh, it doesn't. Mine doesn't. Good advice. Thank you.
Care to say a few words? Jump right in.
I just want to say thank you for inviting us and recognizing ATVP in October as Domestic Violence Action Month. ATVP has been supporting our survivors in our community for over 40 years. We provide legal assistance with protection orders and family law case matters. We provide medical advocacy, emotional support, and crisis counseling. We have DV and SA-focused support groups and an emergency DV shelter, and we provide education and prevention efforts all throughout Latah County. The work that we do, along with the recognition from the city, proves to survivors that they're supported, that ATVP and the city alike believe their stories and will do what we can for them to see justice, strength, and resilience. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Okay, next up is the consent agenda, and tonight it's slightly different because we had a missing committee meeting last week due to not being able to post the fact that we were going to have a committee meeting ahead of time. So there are a couple items on here that also fall into the realm of routine and or non-controversial. And any item on the consent agenda can be pulled by any member of the council for a more complete consideration.
Your Honor, I move we approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Any further discussion? Okay, Bryce.
Aye.
Julia.
Aye.
Gina.
Aye.
Brenda.
Aye.
Drew.
Aye.
And Haley.
Aye.
Okay, great. Moving on to the regular agenda. Next up is mayor's appointments. I have none tonight. And following this, public comment with the mayor's response period. And for the next 15 minutes in 3-minute increments, we invite members of the public to come up to the podium, give us your name and place of residence. And for 3 minutes, tell us what you're thinking about. as long as it's not on tonight's agenda nor pending before Planning and Zoning Commission or the Board of Adjustment. There. Please.
How you? My name is Ken Salisbury. I'm a resident of Moscow, Idaho. A few things I would like to bring up this evening. I did go ahead and begin to file a complaint report with the city council about my past involvement here in Lake Tahoe County before the district county courts. And then a few other topics of interest. For example, the Home Depot down there behind Winco. I've been out cleaning up a lot of trash. It's like something I do just to keep busy, you know, keep from sitting in my apartment. I get to go out and walk and, you know, help things get cleaned up. So I've been walking down there. I noticed, I was thinking about it because I've read about it for a long time aside the new highway project that's recently been completed. And I as I stood out there by the bus stop near Winco, I said, how are they going to get these big trucks up there, you know, and, you know, it's a source of trash in the first place. Like when I lived in Idaho Falls, I always would pick up trash by Home Depot in Idaho Falls. And I thought, you know, it's terrible that they mowed down the hill to put it in a Home Depot where the sheep farm was. I used to visit the sheep farm when I lived up near Arby's. I would walk down there and you know, go in the afternoon and just take a glance at the sheep and be enlivened, you know, and enjoy my time, short time there before I would head back home. But I thought, you know, you have to watch out for that thing, knowing that I picked up a lot of trash. You know, it's just going to be a greater input of trash. And then I thought, because I ended up cleaning up behind the LDS church on the hill by Walmart, and there were cigarette butts and everything way back there. I recommended to some of those people in the near business park there that they work on the trash. It's really a priority for the new millennium and for environmentalist cause and things like that. And, you know, besides the trucks getting up there, it just doesn't seem well designed to have that in place of the sheep farm. And I thought, well, they ought to turn that into a sheep expo building and make out the entire farm and add another 8,000 acres on the end and keep everybody happy, rather than, you know, giant trucks trying to get in that little turn there, or extra trash overflowing. When Winco already has a supermarket and, you know, nearby, I helped pick up all the way down the street, all the way down from, you know, Mod Pizza, all the way down to Walmart, you know, back and forth all the way around. There's just going to be more trash, and it's going to end up not in the city. That trash is going to end up far in the hill. And then the other thing I recalled, thinking more deeply about the issue, was that somehow the Home Depot had been mentioned earlier in a very important court opinion. I know the Idaho politicians have been talking for a long time about how they're going to adapt the local community to the SEL investment for a larger modern scale investment about the nearby area. But when you look at it, in my opinion, the Home Depot is going to take out the do it best lumbers when they could be added on. There's plenty of space for the local need, I do believe. And, you know, to plant trees rather than have all the automobile, because I walked down just the other day when it got real hot out. Exactly. And, you know, I noticed there's too many cars, you know, it's going to bring that exhaust in. You know, you look back for a longer history, you'd have to look at the tree across from the new Axe store. There's one there that is started to degrade a little bit into a poor position for itself, where there's a specific leaf lessening disease. Thank you. And it can be treated if you cut it back properly. I know the City Tree Commission has been out scanning the trees for the
So
winter trimming and all. So I've seen them, but I want to recommend that at this time. And I think it has to do a lot with cutting those trees out in front of the Republican headquarters here in town.
well, we'll keep an eye on the trash and the trees.
Thank you so
So
much.
we'll keep an eye out for it. Thank you. Who else wants to take advantage?
Well, Roger Rowley, I live here in Moscow. And good evening. I come before you because I'm concerned about interpretations used in reference to Ordinance 2019-7. In the land use table, museums and galleries are approved for the Central Business District, a by right use. I want you to think, what are the benefits this designation seeks to advance? I was asked to justify Moscow Contemporary's public benefit in order to receive the property tax exemption. They are innumerable. At page 7, I got bored and figured I'd proved my point. With the ordinance, City Council sought to strengthen restrictions on the expansion of institutions of higher education. What you've now seen is the college use the museum and gallery use as a way to get around City Council's intentions. The NSA offices were objected to as ancillary to the giving of credits, while the gallery is a by right use.
Hold on just a minute, Roger.
Your Honor, this issue is currently before the court with a petition for judicial review. I don't believe it would be appropriate for the council to receive comments on this topic at this time.
So we got to wait for the judicial review to complete lest we get into trouble with the courts. Thank you, Roger. Who else would like to have a go? Okay, hearing none and thus moving on. Next up is Citizens Commission report for the Farmers Market Commission. Amanda and Jamie.
Good evening, City Council members and City staff. We are a bit delayed. We're normally here a little bit earlier with more markets to go when we give our annual Citizen Commission report with Chair Jamie Hill behind me for the Farmers Market Commission. But if you'll just allow me a little bit of leeway, this is, in my opinion, a special report that Jamie's giving. I am very lucky to have the commission that I get to work with that helps guide the philosophies and values of the farmers market. Jamie first applied to be on the commission back in April of 2017, and it took her a while to get on the commission, but she finally, there was an opening and was appointed. And I've had the pleasure of working with her ever since I've been in this position since 2018. And what's really great is every year we come together, and because of her effective leadership as the chair of the commission, I get to just produce numbers. I say, hey, what do you want to highlight this year from the commission? What do you want to talk about? And she says, X, Y, and Z, I need these numbers. And because the commission allows me the ability to really focus on my work and managing the farmers market, I just spit out those numbers for her, and then she does the rest. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce Chair Jamie Hill.
Thanks, Amanda. Jamie, good to see you.
Hello, thank you for having us, and thank you for your patience in our delay. This year, as always, we start every single meeting of the Farmers Market Commission with our mission statement. I think it's really important. This is one of the things I'm really proud of introducing, messing with the city agenda a little bit to squeeze this in. But it's important for us to remember every single month that we meet that the Moscow Farmers Market celebrates life on the Palouse by providing the community with the opportunity to buy and sell local and regional agricultural products, e.g. crops, meat, cheese, wine, etc., distinctive handmade goods, artisan pieces, and original recipe cuisine. This venue is meant to encourage and support sustainable economic, social, and environmental practices. We read that every month. We make sure that what we are doing matches this. Every conversation that we have, I know some of you on the commission or on the council can attest, when we get stuck, we go back to this and make sure we're meeting this mission. So who the heck are we? We have 3 different types of members of our commission. We have 2 specialty spots. One is Colette DePhelps, who is from the University of Idaho Extension, and then Sam Martinet with the Chamber of Commerce. We have 3 specialized vendor representatives. We have Jody, who is here with us today from Swallowtail Flowers, Gerardo from Patty's Kitchen, and Cassie from KS Ceramics. And then community members, those of us who are just really passionate about our market, Phil Blankenship, myself, Josh Larson, and JT Manning. Phil and JT are also here, so thank you for being here. So some numbers, like Amanda said, love to pull some numbers. This year, our vendor roster includes 158 eligible vendors. That 158 number we onboarded 32 new vendors, so lots of new life. You've probably noticed this year at the market, a lot of new faces. Of those 32, 9 of them were agricultural. So think those produce vendors. 15 were craft and 7 were food, prepared food, such as the new lumpia stand. We have a 2-to-1 ratio of agricultural versus non-agricultural vendors. So one of our main points that we really stand for is that we are a farmers market first and foremost. I went to some other markets this summer and fall in other big cities in our region, and it's always really nice to come home to this one. One town had 3 markets going on in one day, and one of them was okay, and the other 2 were not worth my time, and should not be called farmers markets. So that 2-to-1 ratio, I think, really says something that we are focused on making sure that we're supporting farmers, that we are supporting local agriculture from our area and providing that to people who may not know other venues to get that. We had 9 site visits this year. Those involve having commission members go out to the farms and seeing what their practices look like in person. It's really great to be able to say, hi, this is Winchester Ridge Farm and they grow sheep. And I have seen those sheep and I've seen them during lambing seasons and I may have met that lamb you're eating. And I hope you enjoy it. Also really fun when you see some of the vendors who are constantly coming up with new things. Greenhouses to do vegetables during some months and flowers in other months. It's helpful, I think, for those of us on the commission who maybe haven't, I grew up with sheep, didn't grow up with vegetables other than like corn and potatoes, which are really easy. So seeing other extensive crops is really fascinating for us. Another big number that I really wanted to shout out is our inquiries. Last year, we had about 74 inquiries for how do I do craft and food? How do I get to be in the market? I make some stuff and I want to sell it. This year, from March 23 to March 24, we had 138. So everybody wants to be at the market. Usually it's the second market of the year that the commission represents ourselves at the city tent at market. And we get a lot of that. How do I be at the market? How do I be at the market? And we say you have to contact staff. So to know that that actually went through to the staff was exciting. Sorry, Amanda. Sorry, Laura. But really excited to see that people come to our market and immediately get hooked and want to know how they can be involved. America's Farmers Market celebration. Normally, as Amanda said, we're here earlier and I'm begging you and telling everyone to please vote. This year, they actually shortened the celebration. And gosh dang it, at the last minute, we came in second in Idaho.
To Nampa again.
No, to Boise this time.
At least it wasn't Nampa.
But, you know, Boise, Nampa, Caldwell, Ewell, it's one town. But that still also places us second in the Pacific Northwest, which I think is something to be really proud of. 21st nationwide. Only 856 votes, but again, this was a shorter voting period. I think it probably made it easier on staff for that. I know it felt a little easier. I didn't feel quite like I was harassing people as much to get those votes in. I did actually have a couple people reach out to me and say, when's that thing where we tell people that Moscow's the best? So it's sticking. So next year is going to be number 1. Coming up, we have our Halloween costume contest on Saturday. So you think you're rid of me, but you're not, because I'll be back in a little bit to present the winners. But we would love to invite the community to come to the costume contest. We have lots of different categories for groups, individuals, kiddos, everything in between. So come to the contest. It'll be the last market, last chance until May. So come say hi. We'll be at Friendship Square doing our Halloween costume contest. Other things that we have coming up on the docket are continued craft and food juries for all of those inquiries for next year, as well as our poster art contest to pick the off-season things that we really look forward to, in addition to the really fun stuff like policy updates and changes. And with that, just one final thank you to the council. Like Amanda said, I've been on this commission for quite a while. And have had such a pleasure serving for you all. And for the most of my 7 years on the commission, I've served as chair. and it has been a true honor. In December, my term will be up, and I will not be seeking reappointments. I think it's time for another community member to have the opportunity to have a hand in this amazing market. So thank you, Council, for all of your support of the market and for allowing me to be here tonight.
Thank you for what you've done for these past many years. A really good job.
Thank you.
Great. Questions, comments?
I have one question, but it may be for Amanda, so we can wait if we
Well,
want.
she hasn't left.
Okay. Oh, I love it. She's out. She's down for the count. I love it. So I'm curious if there's a Cliff's Notes version you can share with us about the evolution of our ability, then lack of ability to provide SNAP and EBT benefits and what you need from us to support and if we're looking better for 2025 season or what we can do to support you is trying to bring it back.
Cliff Notes version is we're looking hopefully better for 2025. We are with the dissolution of Backyard Harvest as a formal nonprofit. I understand that part of their operation has moved under Inland Oasis.
Okay.
But we wrapped everything up financially speaking with the SNAP EBT. They paid out vendors that had outstanding tokens. Community members have been asked to hold on to their specifically Shop the Market tokens, which will be eligible to be spent next season at the farmers market. To those community members out there that have Backyard Harvest tokens, that was free money, not going to be good for next season. We've done our best to gather all of those. People have asked me, what can they do with those tokens? Make an art project, use them in a bonfire. They're wooden. I'm not quite sure. But the Shop the Market ones, we are accounting for them. And hopefully we'll have that program back up and running for next season.
And a follow-up, if it's okay, Mr. Mayor, because it's that the city needed a partner to help carry out the program, right? It's something that we wouldn't take on
Correct.
on our own. Okay.
It's in my research with other farmers markets, not just in the state of Idaho, but in Washington and Oregon. It's highly unusual for municipalities to manage farmers markets. And I have spoken with 2 farmers markets in Washington, and their finance departments indicated it was a headache to handle those federal funds. And so for
Like
us,
finding an
the
agency
cleanest
who already knows how to
Yep,
navigate.
the cleanest way forward is for us as a city and for staff truly is to find that partnership. And so the Moscow Food Co-op with its proximity, it's already an authorized SNAP EBT store, so they understand that process. They're more than willing to have that partnership. And so we're going to get our application in with USDA to have them be authorized to come to farmers market and have our market back up and running for that program.
Thank you. And I was just going to compliment, I love the bike tokens. It's the best.
Oh yeah, spend your bike tokens, please.
Yeah, you need the
Please,
circular
please,
economy
please.
to
Yes,
get back
please
up.
return
Yeah,
them. Yeah.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
Yeah, thank you for the presentation. I've got one comment and then 2 questions. One thing that I do every year when school starts for all my classes that I teach at U of I is I always tell my students to get to know the town that they live in, and I always advertise for the farmers market if they hadn't ever heard of it or hadn't been. And every time I'm walking through, I'm seeing students from classes that I teach and from both, clearly from both universities, and it's just, I think, a really great outlet for them to see that there's such a good community care in this space for that. So I always get stoked clearly for the market, as I know we all do, but it's also fun to be stoked for it for students that might not know about it, right? Of new members to our community. My 2 questions. First is, what is your impression of your expansion onto 4th Street? Because wasn't this the first year that happened? Yeah. And then my second question is, what time does the costume contest start on Saturday?
I don't know what your costume is, Bryce.
I got a whole week to prepare. So
Costume
4
contest
days.
starts at 9.
Thank you.
So be there till noon. We'll have some judges and hopefully a photo option as well.
Confirmed.
Great, a photo option. That'll happen.
Awesome.
So yeah, we're
Awesome.
ready.
And you don't have to be there all 3 hours, right?
You do not. You just can come, sign in. We'll announce you to our judges, and then you
Cute.
can be off to shop the market in your costume.
Cute.
The other question, 4th Street. 4th Street was kind of a bit of a tester expansion for us this year. I would say probably one of the top 5 questions that we always get is, when is the market going to get bigger? When are we going to expand? And as you all know, the infrastructure downtown is special. Yes. So often that question becomes a lot more difficult really quickly. So this year we took the 4th Street area, really went past kind of to the roundabout area. Now that the police station is no longer there and regularly using that space, and kind of moved toward that area, filled it up with some vendors. We, because of the move, kind of reappropriated some of the spots, moved some longtime vendors around, and utilized that 4th Street area for some vendors I think that already had traction, as well as some new vendors, and really tried to encourage that. One of the really great ones is Cabin Roasters Coffee. Cabin Coffee Roastery. The cabin guys. And they have had a line. Every single week they have a line. Their coffee is delicious. And they, I know, have been so pleasant about their successes and kind of moving around that little circle. But it has created this growth and movement through that area. People are going, oh, I have to go get my cabin coffee. So I'm going to go down there and get in line. And then while they're there, they notice that there's also goat soap and there's also dog treat products. And so I think as a commission member and a community member, it has been incredibly hopeful to see that expansion. When I started with this group, it being on 5th Street was like a total bummer. And now 5th and 4th are the places to be. They are just as important as Main Street. I think they're getting a ton of traction. So I think it's been a great outlook.
Gina.
I'll just add one more final. I do want to give a shout out to Public Works. One of the things that I hadn't thought about, there is just a slight grade off of that cul-de-sac area, but it was enough of sort of a tripping hazard. And most people don't realize there's that little bulb out that sticks out. And so Public Works, we kind of said, hey, this is the feedback we heard on opening day. They went in, they put in a makeshift ramp, and then also highlighted spray painted yellow along that circular area. And it really has made all the difference. And I think that just goes to show the importance of the farmers market. It's not just our division, but really is a city-wide effort when we have those needs that come up. It has made my job slightly less stressful this year with the wait lists and the number of vendors being accommodated. We've seen that come down significantly by adding 10 spaces.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Gina.
I won't take really long time, but I want to say, as one of the original group, your impact as a leader of this kind of sometimes wily bunch of citizens can be visibly seen and very, very seriously measured. And I want to encourage you, take a year, breathe, do your own thing, do some crafts, come to the market, sell your crafts. But please do come back, because we need people with that civic heart and people with the vision to serve on commissions or serve on council or be the mayor. But please do come back. We will be waiting for you.
Thanks, Gina.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Okay, thanks. Appreciate it much. Okay, next up is the Advanced Water Metering Infrastructure, AMI Procurement Agreement. Evan Tamar from the Wastewater Treatment Group.
Y'all are missing out.
Calls.
Welcome, Evan.
Yeah, this is going to. Good evening, Mayor, City Council, City staff, members of the community. My name is Evan Timar. I'm the Public Utility Manager with the City of Moscow. And this evening, I'm going to talk with you about the Advanced Metering Infrastructure and Meter Replacement Project. So an overview, I'm going to touch base on what Advanced Metering Infrastructure is, brief history on the metering technology, the benefits of an AMI system, current meter status for the City of Moscow, and then the proposal responses that we received, and a general deployment overview. So what is AMI? Advanced Metering Infrastructure is an integrated system of equipment, information system management, that collects remote real-time data of water meter water meters throughout the community. And so it's generally radio-based technology that we receive real-time data from, and it eliminates manual touch and drive-by meter reads. So a brief history of meters. A conventional meter, it requires you to go to a residence, so a place where the meter is located, and pop a meter lid, look at the physical meter, and grab the numbers off of that, and then put that into a software system. In the late 1980s, the meter reading, which was essentially just a radio device that you went back to the physical meter each month and touched it, and then it gave you those numbers, and then you continued on throughout your reads. And then they introduced drive-by metering technology, which required you to slowly drive by the water meters, and then it would collect that via radio onto a device, and then you would continue on your reads. All three of those still require you to go out monthly to each physical meter. AMI, Advanced Metering Infrastructure, came onto the scene in 2010, and that allows you to be able to collect from the meter. That meter reads out to a collector, and then that collector reads back to your main software, your computer. And so that really modernized the entire metering system and platform. And so that's been what's mainly been deployed across the country since 2010. And so the true benefits of that introduce that you do not have to manually read or touch read or drive-by read your meters anymore. It allows you to track real-time consumption, identify any potential tampering and backflow instances. It gives your customers access to that real-time data, and it allows you to flag high consumption before receiving, a potentially high bill for the customers. Of course, the water system gets more accurate information from an AMI platform. You can detect leaks minute by minute, and therefore, overall, it decreases your water demand on the system. And with the employees, it gives improved safety and then shortens response time to the meters.
I'm also guessing there's some dignity of work stuff there too, as far as not reading meters all day.
Certainly. Yeah, so the current status of the city of Moscow, so we have 3% of our meters are still manual read, 40% are touch-based read, and 57% of our system is drive-by. The unfortunate part is we have historically not have a formalized obsolescence plan of our meters. So as the meter fails, we get a new one, replace that. And therefore, some of the meters are relatively old. We have different manufacturers in our system. And so we propose to issue a request for proposals to transition to an advanced metering platform. In the advanced metering infrastructure proposal that we issued, we wanted them to be radio-based or cellular. A solid state meter was preferred, so no moving components inside the meter. We wanted it to produce a variety of information codes, a minimum of 20-year battery life. And then we anticipated this project costing roughly $3.2 million. And we wanted to implement these meters over a 7-year period, which would be roughly $450,000 coming from water utility operational funds. We had received 9 proposals back from the largest meter vendors in the country. Zenner ended up coming in $300,000 below anybody else up front. The total 20-year cost of the meters, they were $1 million less than anybody else. They are a German metering company that wants to essentially get their share of the market, and so they are highly competitive at this time. So it's really advantageous of us to take advantage of this. We did have a selection committee go over all the proposals that we received. So our information systems director, Chris Kaler, was a part of that committee. Our finance representative, our utility billing specialist, was a part of that committee. Lovely Tyler Palmer, our feature water utility manager, Justin Kilborn, and then our meter lead, Anthony Henricks, was a part of that selection committee as well as myself. And we did choose Zenner to be able to move forward with that AMI platform. If we did decide, if you guys did decide to award the contract to Zenner to move forward with the AMI platform, we would break that up into 3 deployment phases. The first being the alpha phase, which is a 6-month introductory phase. Then we move into the beta and then full deployment phase. The alpha phase of implementation would be a 6-month timeframe where we would purchase roughly 100 meters, put it in a controlled environment, get the collector infrastructure installed, and then the software in place. And that would cost us only $107,000. Upon successful completion of the alpha phase, we'd move to the beta phase, which would just take us roughly a year to implement. It'd be purchasing an additional 300 meters and then introducing the customer portal. And that would only cost us $74,000. And then we, upon successful completion of the beta phase, we'd move to the full deployment phase, which would be an annual replacement of roughly 1,100 meters per year for the next 5.5 years. And that would only cost us $250,000. So that essentially be saving us what we anticipated, of the $450,000. So we'd be saving roughly $200,000 to deploy meters into the system for the next 5.5 years. So in 2031, upon full deployment of an AMI system, we could potentially be looking at savings of upwards of 49 million gallons per year, a reduction in pumping, so an potential electrical savings of up to 140,000 kilowatt hours of energy, and as well as up to 43 metric tons of CO2 emissions reduced due to the reduced pumping and reduced driving that our current metering platform presents. So with that, city staff recommends awarding the contract to Zenner. And with that, I will take any questions.
Nope. No, sir. Questions are from council. Are there questions from council?
I have a couple questions. So Zenner was so much lower than the other ones. It kind of made my eyebrows go up. But just wanted to make sure this is a firm that's going to stay in business, and they're not new.
Yeah, we're hopeful that they would stay in business. They've been around well over 100 years in Europe. They're one of the largest water and gas meter companies in Europe. They've only been in America for a little over 10 years. So as opposed to the other vendors, they've been in America for 70 to 100 years. And so they really do want to try to undercut people to get contracts in place. And so, they do have regional support. So we actually have some of their meters deployed into our system currently to be able to test them. And we have had, really good support from their regional distributor.
Great. Sounds like we got lucky.
Yeah.
I've got one for you. Relative to especially the oldest meters, do the new ones represent an improvement in accuracy?
They do. They have significantly improved low flow accuracy. They also have a very defined flow variant, so they define where their low flow and high flow accuracy range is. So it allows us the ability to better gauge what meter, best fits a business or, depending on the service that we would be providing. So it allows us to capture that range as accurately as possible, which is nice. Yeah. So, and we're transitioning from a meter with mechanical components inside of it to what would be ultrasonic meters. And so their transit time measurement as accurately as possible as you can get with a water meter.
Thanks for indulging my nerdness.
Yeah.
Sandra.
This might be one of those questions that only makes sense in my head, so I apologize if it's not right. Looking in terms of software, that seems to change all the time. Do we have like a guarantee, like when the software changes, we don't have to pay like another $1 million to get the software compatible with what we have?
$75,000 a year.
Yeah, that's a great question. So we fortunately were able to lock in the software the software component into the CPI. They agreed to be able to lock that in with whatever the CPI would be and lock in a fixed rate for the first 3 years and then just purely a CPIU adjustment for the remaining life of the software. So I think we would get a really good deal with what we've locked in at this point. But yeah, that's a great question because they are constantly, innovating those softwares to be able to help, get the most efficient information and data possible.
Right.
Go ahead, Drew.
Thanks. Evan, thanks. I know it's a lot of work and coming to council and presenting, and for me, I always like upgrades to infrastructure, especially when it improves efficiency. I still have vivid memories of the water meter guy in my backyard and my dog trying to bite him. So I think this is going to eliminate, some of those fears, right?
Dog bite, yeah.
Yeah, it's not good. It was a good dog, just didn't like the meter guy.
That still works for us.
Yeah. But always with technology, and I know people have, my counterparts on council for this, whenever we implement software in the age that we're living in, I'm not hesitant to go with this. I believe this is the direction that where the industry is going, but I always am cautious, living in an age where things can be hacked and water being a key component to our community, that I think that should always be top of mind, and making that aware that to our consultant that is a priority. I'm sure it is, right? Anyone that's in the software business and technology business, it is. But for me, it's essential. And so I don't know. I'm not asking for any answers or having to defend that, but I just would hope that's a conversation that's always being had with this consultant. And then I would be surprised if you had the numbers. This isn't, I'm trying to get Evan on the spot or anything, but maybe it's another conversation. When introducing new meters and the increased efficiency that it's going to bring, I see that from our staff and everything else. But long term, after grants and those things go away, what's going to be the cost to the buyer? Right, not the developer will probably have to have one, but that's going to be passed on to the buyer. What are we looking at for that?
Yeah, that's a great question. So set aside the technology component of it. We would need to transition, as meters fail, to a general meter.
Right.
If you take the meters out of it, the infrastructure that we're talking about that would be incorporated in the overall cost is roughly $74,000 over the life of these meters. And that's just the collector infrastructure. So we're talking 4 collectors on city-owned water assets and 5 repeaters. Those devices do the work that we would be doing in a vehicle or on foot to be able to collect the or to be able to collect the reads. And so those are really the bulk of the AMI platform. So $74,000 in the AMI infrastructure component, aside from the meters. And if we decided to not go with those, it would be just subtract that $74,000 and we have to move forward with general meters implemented. And so if we're looking at the reduced pumping costs, the reduced energy costs, and equating that, we're looking at somewhere around $16,000 in savings if we did go with an AMI platform versus the $74,000 that we would be putting into collector infrastructure outside of that over the 20-year period of the AMI infrastructure.
So that 16,000 change, that number
So that's $4 million. No, I'm not.
Yeah, just kidding.
No, but it's
I believe it. I'm just kidding. Okay.
So the AMI platform is a really great platform. That's just where, obviously, like you said, the industry is going. So it's heavily invested into and relatively cost effective to transition to upfront, which is nice.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
We had Bryce.
Yeah, and more so a comment when I was looking through this on our packet, and then one of the slides depicted a picture of this, but I got a little excited about the app that we would all potentially have access to,
Yeah.
Which in my mind, that equated to kind of a better grasp on on conservation with water within the Palouse Basin Aquifer. Just kind of like, tackling all these problems through greater awareness to like, easy access as opposed to every month you get your water bill, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And so I was excited just to see how down the line we might be able to incorporate easy access to use with continued conservation efforts. I think that's a
Yeah.
really good thing.
Yeah, and
So,
certainly like the main component of that, one of the IBM studies was that an informed and engaged citizen in their water use would be the primary driver of water savings.
Yeah.
And so that represents one of the larger components of one of the benefits with an AMI system.
yeah, and I like that. So,
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, thanks.
Gina?
So what happens if us 7 and 93 of our friends want the first 100? How do you do that?
So we're going to do that with city water meters that provide city services just within the city to be able to make sure we work the kinks out with
Demo.
any
Good.
issues. So that way we're not finagling with customers up front. So we want to make sure it gets deployed well and doesn't cause too many issues.
And there's no cost to the user.
Correct. Yeah. There's no
Okay,
cost. Yeah.
that's great.
That's built into what we're paying for here.
Okay, that is super.
Yeah.
Evan, thank you.
I've got
One more.
one. I could talk about this all day. I'll keep going. I'll filibuster. You guys threw off my train of thought. One sec. Sorry. So in terms of like dignity of work and stuff, I'm trying to understand what our current staffing of folks who are having to go read meters and get chased by Drew's dog looks like. And it's a long enough runway. I'm not super worried. I'm not worried about robots replacing jobs. I joke a lot at work that robots are coming for your jobs, but they're coming for the most boring parts of your jobs. And so can you help me understand what our current staff makeup is of folks who by 2031 will not have to be, or they might be sad to not get their steps in doing the in-person meter reads, but what would that look like?
Yeah.
And does that then get replaced with the people who need to be maintaining the software and stuff
Yeah, that's
on the other side?
a great question. So we currently have 2 people full-time into meter reading, and they'll go out and collect that information. They do a phenomenal job at doing leak audits, and you collect that read one time per month and then compare that to the trend that's been happening. And so they do a phenomenal job doing all the manual work that an AMI system would replace. What it would look like over the next 7 years, you would have one person full-time doing roughly 8 to 9 meter replacements per day for a 6-month period. I'm assuming there's going to be snow on the ground for roughly 6 months. So that's worst case scenario, but they would be replacing those 1,100 meters per year, that one individual. And then you'd have the other individual doing the current meter reading, continue to do that job. And then you would have, you would transition them, one of the roles more so into a full-time kind of
Oversight, maintenance.
yeah, because
Cool.
you're going to get a lot of customer requests and questions regarding that. And we're going to get a plethora of information from this system that's going to require them to look into the information. So we will need somebody kind of full-time diving into that and still checking the meters on occasion. There's obviously things that go wrong with them, but and then the other individual would likely transition just full-time into the distribution system as an employee. So,
Cool.
but that's a great question.
Long runway. I'm not terribly worried, but good to know as we go into budget season and eventually talking about headcount stuff.
Yeah.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. And thanks, Evan.
I'd like to make a motion, please, that we approve the AMI procurement agreement.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Anything else from council? Okay, Sandra,
Aye.
Gina,
Aye.
Bryce,
Aye.
Drew,
Aye.
Julia,
Aye.
Haley.
Aye.
Cool. Thank you, Evan.
Yeah.
Thanks,
Thanks,
Evan.
Evan.
Thanks, Evan.
It is done. Next up is the WRF Influent Pump Station Upgrade Proposal Results and Contract Award from Scott Bontrager. The Natalie Clad Scott
Yeah,
Bontrager
wow.
tonight. Yes.
Thanks, Mayor and council members. It's a rare occasion you'll ever see me dress up like this.
It's coming for your job, Tyler.
That's best dressed at the city.
Yeah, so this is the bid results and contract award for the wastewater facilities influent pump station upgrade. Just as a rough idea where we're talking about, circled in yellow there. So through the treatment train, as the effluent comes in, it comes in from the east over here, goes through its the headworks where it removes a lot of the large solids and everything before it comes down and gets to the pumps that actually bring it back up roughly 20 feet in elevation, so that most of the rest of the treatment train through the plant can be done by gravity as opposed to other mechanical means. So this is a view of what the 3 pumps themselves look like. They are a Archimedes style screw pump. So it's a slow moving roller pump, which essentially pulls water up through a rotating screw type mechanism. The originals were installed in 2002 as part of the phase 2 facility upgrade. So these ones are 22 years old, which these type of pumps typically last somewhere between 20 and 40 years. Various components on it go out. These particular ones, the bearings have been screaming for quite a while, to the point where I think they're down to only using 2 of the pumps mainly. So we put this out to bid. The base bid for the project that we had put out was to remove and replace the 3 existing pumps, the accessories to it, and all kinds of electrical and other various components that are associated with it. And the base bid included a 1-year warranty. We wanted to also add in, just to see what it would cost as add alternates, to go to a 3-year extended warranty and a 5-year extended warranty for this. The bids we received from pre-qualified contractors that all are regulars in this industry that we had pre-qualified for this. We had pre-qualified 5. We received bids back from 4. And the bids ranged anyone from $1,985,000 to $2,440,000 for the base bid. And then the warranties themselves had a wide range for what they were offering. Our recommendation is to go with the low bid of Apollo, who is currently working on Pullman's downtown project, and this is pretty regular type work for them. Recommend that we go with their base bid of $1,985,000 and go with the 5-year extended warranty for $59,000. Also noting that the engineer's estimate was $3.6 million, where the bid total we're looking at is $2,044,000, so significant savings. And as we were going through the process with our consultant JEB engineers, as we were developing the probable cost, the engineer's estimate for this, I mean, they had worked with multiple manufacturers, product experts, different contractors at the time. We were all significantly surprised how much lower things came in, which was great. And it's consistent throughout all of them. It wasn't just one was way lower than the rest. It was, they all.
I was thinking this, since I work for SEL and we're employee owned, any SEL sale of device ultimately results in like financial gain for me. This is not the project I was thinking it was, so I am
Good to go.
so we're good to go. Just want to clearly err on that one. But yeah, I'm excited to know that can you go back to the picture of the 3 pumps side by side? Go forward. One more. One more. Appurtenances. I'm really glad to know that we're focused on appurtenances replacement. And I had never seen that word in this on a PowerPoint slide before. So no concerns.
Questions, motions?
I just want to make sure I'm reading the math right. So between the 5-year warranty, there's almost like a $300,000 difference between the bid that you're proposing in Clearwater, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, between TML and Clearwater, I don't know where the difference that they were getting with whom they were working for the warranty extensions. But that was really the only place we saw any significant difference. But it's very clear in the specifications on what that warranty's covering.
Okay, so you have no concerns from the spec?
No.
Okay.
The spec is very, it's
right.
many pages thorough.
Yeah, light reading.
Yeah.
474
I think
pages.
it's around 1,000 pages.
Yeah. Those are fun. Okay, this is a big discrepancy. So
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
It's interesting though, the bids are similar.
Mhm.
it's the change happens in the 3 and 5
Yeah.
5-year warranty.
Yeah.
That's interesting. And you said that there is a 20 to 40 year lifespan. We're on the short end of that right now with the ones we have, right?
And there's multiple different styles of screw pumps out there. I'm thinking that the open screw pumps are the ones that have a longer life. These are a closed type, have different setup, have different types of bearings, different type of motor. And the components that come with this time around, we're going to get additional components for replacement. So there's going to be more maintenance that can happen over time.
In-house kind of stuff.
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
Thank you for the presentation, Scott. What is your estimated rough timeline here after this goes out?
Yeah, for construction. So
Yeah.
procurement, we have in here 330 days for procurement to get the actual pumps themselves. Then after that, in the contracts, about 150 days for install. They can only do it one at a time since the things have to still be in place to
Right.
use. So,
Okay, great.
but yeah, they take quite a bit to order and get on site.
Thanks.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we approve the AMI procurement agreement.
Second.
Or no, we need to
No,
do the
Item
add.
6,
Oh.
not 5.
This is the
Oh,
Wharf.
I'm reading the
info.
wrong one. Mr. Mayor, I move that we accept the bid from Apollo Incorporated, award the contract in the amount of $2,044,000 for the base bid and add alternate number 2 and authorize staff approval of change orders in an amount not to exceed 10% of the contract amount.
I'll second.
Okay, Bryce got that one. Another?
Yeah, I just had one comment. I'm just curious, Scott, when they're actually installing.
Moment.
Okay,
I'll be good.
Drew,
Aye.
Julia.
Aye.
Gina,
Aye.
Bryce,
Aye.
Haley,
Aye.
Sandra. Okay, great. First up on that one.
Thank you, Scott.
Okay,
Scott.
next up is discussion regarding the potential impact of the Latah County Jail closure. Bill Belknap and Joe Severing.
Good evening, Your Honor, Council. So as the council's aware, city, a few weeks ago, the city learned that Latah County was having an ongoing discussion about potential closure of the Latah County Jail facility. We kind of learned that through some social media posts and then attended some commissioner deliberations to observe the conversation. As council's aware, operation of the jail is the role and responsibility of the county sheriff underneath Idaho law. And the city does depend upon that jail facility for the detention of all individuals that we place under arrest as they wait for processing through the courts and the judicial system. It's our understanding that this consideration at this time was a result of a fire inspection that the city performed on the jail facility at the request of the county. And I only note that because it's a bit of a unique situation. There's been a long-standing agreement between the city and the county based upon a legal opinion of the Latah County prosecutor that the county courthouse is kind of a pseudo-state building because the courts are an extension of the state's judicial system. We've had this kind of long-standing understanding that the county would be responsible for permitting and inspections of any construction activities on the courthouse proper. The city would have no jurisdiction over those buildings. And it's based upon some AG opinions from the 70s and the 80s. The city does permit and inspect any county activities off the courthouse. So if you're in the fairgrounds, or you're in the annex, or any other building other than just the courthouse itself, the city is the entity that does have jurisdiction over permitting and inspection of construction related to county properties, county buildings. This most recent event occurred because it sounds like the state's fire marshal office decided that this is not a facility or building that's owned by the state, therefore they shouldn't have jurisdiction over it, even though they've been performing fire inspections for, I think the jail was constructed in the early 70s for quite some period of time. We did get a copy of the latest inspection that happened in 2022, which noted no violations that were observed during the time of that inspection.
Yep.
So, like I said, we treated it as a state building where, like, university buildings or any other state buildings, we don't have jurisdiction over. So that's kind of been our historical practice. The county then requested this summer, request the city to perform that fire inspection after the state fire marshal's decision. That inspection occurred on August 21st of this year. There were 12 required corrections identified during the course of the inspection. Many of them were fairly small. There were storage in front of electrical panels, so we need to move that so you could have access to turn off circuits in an emergency. There were fire alarm systems or riser rooms that the rooms weren't identified with a sign or placard on the door that needed to be placed. There were some emergency egress lights that I think the batteries had gone dead on them that needed to be replaced to make sure they were functioning. They observed kind of daisy chaining of surge protectors, which is generally not a good practice, as well as some appliances, I think, that were using extension cords that need to be directly plugged into outlets. I'm not sure if the hood the cooking hood had been inspected. That's required to have an annual certified inspection on the hood, so that was noted as well. There were 3 more significant items that were identified in the inspection. The first of which was that the smoke detectors for the fire alarm system needed to be replaced. And that was based on a report from the third-party fire alarm company that maintains that system. And I think that system is getting to the age where they've had some of the detectors go bad, and I think they're looking on eBay. They're not readily available. The system's not supported, and so they're finding used components or parts to try to keep that system up and operational. So that was one of the items identified. And again, that was based on the fire alarm company's recommendation. The fire inspectors also identified that there were 4 holding cells where there were no sprinkler heads in those cells. So that was noted that those need to be extended into that area, as well as the sally port where prisoners are brought into the facility. There was a conversation about egress, and there were apparently 2 gates in kind of a main circulation corridor. And at the time the inspection was performed, it was represented to the inspector that one of those gates had been modified and had been narrowed. And so one of the corrections identified was that gate that had been narrowed beyond what it was at the time of original construction, based on the codes at the time the jail was constructed, would have to be enlarged. So those were kind of the 3 larger items that were identified as part of the inspection. I would note that the fire alarm system itself actually is the alarm that serves the entire courthouse. So it's not unique just to the jail. I think that is kind of one of those larger cost items that has been reported that the county is facing, but it's not, that system supports the entire courthouse building. It just happens that the control panel was placed in the jail. They presumed that that place was going to be staffed 24 hours a day, so that control panel was located in the jail, but it does affect the entire courthouse. At that time, I think there were some questions from jail staff about whether individual cell gates would need to be modified. The inspectors told them no, those would not need to be modified. Those were all original construction, except for, I understand, I think 2 were enlarged and widened for ADA requirements. And so the inspectors did tell them that those would not be required to be modified. After the kind of news broke, I met with the fire marshal, the fire chief, fire inspector, just to kind of understand and clarify what was conveyed during the course of the inspection. Because I think there was some conversation about having to widen all the cell gates and that being an extraordinary expense to the jail facility. In response to that, I emailed the county on October 4th to clarify that the city was not requiring the modifications of the jail cells themselves, that the only gate that was being identified that may need to be modified was the one that was represented as being altered and narrowed since the original construction. City fire staff met again with Latah County jail staff on the morning of October 8th. Again, reassured Latah County jail staff that the individual cell gates would not be required to be altered. During that time, the jail staff provided corrected information, apparently that one corridor gate had not been modified, that was original construction. And so that was some new information, I think, at that time. Later that afternoon, the commissioners in session did have a conversation about the potential closure of the jail on the afternoon of October 8th, during which time the commissioners and jail staff discussed, the inspections, corrections, some of the ideas of costs. But they continue to seem to be under the belief that we were requiring modification of the individual jail cells. And, there was some aspect of how that condition was worded in the inspection report that I could understand could be misconstrued. But we had tried to go out of our way to clarify that to both the commissioners and county staff that that was not what we were requiring at the time. Based on that new information, that the corridor gate had not been modified, and to assure there was no remaining confusion about the cell gates themselves, the fire department issued a new inspection report on October 9th that was accompanied with a cover letter, just to clarify again that based on the new information that none of the egress gates had been modified since the original construction of the jail. No egress modifications would be required as a result of the inspection. So we just want to make sure we clarified that point. As council's aware, building and fire codes generally are updated on a 3-year cycle. We have literally hundreds of buildings in the city that aren't compliant with the code additions that are currently in force in effect today. And for that, for those buildings, the city adopts the International Existing Building Code that addresses what modifications and to what degree buildings may need to come into compliance with current codes based on either a change of occupancy that's to a higher risk class, or based on alterations they're making to the building. So as you remodel a building, whether it's a level 1, level 2, or level 3 alteration, there are different elements of current code requirements related to either accessibility or egress or other life safety requirements that come into effect. In this instance, there are no modifications being proposed to the jail, so that wouldn't, the International Existing Building Code would not trigger any improvements to the jail. We understand the county is continuing to collect information and deliberate on this decision, but I felt it was imprudent in the meantime because it did seem to be a real possibility that we could be facing this, that we would assess how the potential closure of the jail would impact the city's police operations and any cost the city would be expected to incur. It's our understanding that if the jail were to close, the city would be required to transport any person in custody to the Nez Perce County Detention Center located in Lewiston, Idaho. For booking, the city does make just under 250 arrests per year, so it's about 1.3 arrests every 2 days. While it will vary depending upon situation, weather conditions, booking time period, we do think it's reasonable to anticipate that transport and booking process would probably take us about a 2-hour round trip to conduct that transportation. As the council is also aware, we are running a leaner police department at the moment. We had 2 officer positions that have gone unfilled for the last 2 years due to some financial constraints. And it's not uncommon that we have some shifts running at a minimum 3 officer level staffing. We don't believe that we can afford to probably fairly regularly lose one of those 3 officers and only leave 2 officers on duty in the city without having a substantial reduction in public safety and a risk to the remaining officers that are on duty by not having adequate staffing to respond to critical incidents. If Latah County Jail were to close, we anticipate really initially as a triage measure that we need to have officers on call for transport services during the evenings, weekends, and holidays. During business hours, we do have more staff on duty. We have command officers that can step in to fill in a patrol slot if needed, or to assist with a transport if needed. But during those off-hour time periods, we expect we would have to shift to having an officer always on call and available to respond if transport was necessary. Chief Dollinger has conducted a preliminary assessment, analysis of the cost for that on-call compensation. Just that would cost us, we're estimating $80,000 a year just for the on-call, not for the actual call back or call in to actually do the transport. The actual transportation cost, just based on the 2 hours and the just under 250 arrests per year, would add another $30,000 in estimated cost per year, which is about 25% of our total annual police department overtime budget. Beyond that, in addition to those economic costs, we are concerned about what the on-call burden would have on our officers. So I think that conversation of having on-call transport officer would be a stopgap in the interim. I think ultimately the long-term solution would be staffing shifts to the level that we could afford to have an officer be pulled off that shift and do that transport, that 2-hour time period. So if we wanted to get up to 4 to 5 officer shifts where we could afford to have one officer doing transport, We likely would have to add 3 additional officers to the force. That would be probably a total cost of $375,000 per year. So that's, I think, long-term, that's what we're looking at. In the short term, we had about $105,000 for that on-call program, but I don't think that is going to be something that's sustainable in the long run. The additional transport driver time also presents additional costs, hazards. We've, just vehicle use, wear and tear, the opportunity for vehicle accidents or breakdowns, inclement weather conditions, unexpected medical emergencies that somebody in custody might have without any nearby emergency medical services, and other situations can arise during transport that could increase the city's risk and liability. In addition to the impact on the city, those in detention will also be impacted. Public defenders and family members that have traveled down to Lewiston to be able to visit their clients and family members. Some folks in detention maybe end up released in Lewiston without an easy way to find their way back to Moscow or to home. City has communicated to the county on multiple occasions that we're committed to working with the county to allow time for them to make the required corrections and to ensure that this critical facility can remain open and continue to serve this important function. We understand and appreciate the jail has deficiencies, so we do know, the county has discussed that there are, long-term, the county does need to try to work on identifying a better long-term solution and a replacement of that facility. So we do recognize that, certainly. And we understand the county does need to work towards identifying that long-term solution for their facility needs. While maintenance and operation of jail is the county's primary responsibility, given the potential financial impacts on the community and the police department, I would like the council to give some consideration about whether the city would consider providing financial assistance to the county if necessary in the effort of trying to keep this facility open and to avoid some of those longer-term costs we would otherwise incur. If that's the direction the council would like to explore, staff can certainly work with county to try to identify a solution that would be amenable to both entities. With that, I think it provides kind of an overview of what we're looking for the potential operational impacts and long-term costs. And Captain Sieverding and I will be happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Julia.
Okay, I have some questions. It does sound a little bit like it got overblown, but it's made me think about all these things. So I just wanted to throw a few things out there. I understand that even if the jail closes, they'll still have a day holding facility so that people can, if people are up here for court or if they're arrested and released, they can not have to go down to Nez Perce. And I also think that since it's the county's obligation to provide a jail, if they don't provide a jail, then I think that we need to look at the potential of cost sharing the officers that would be transporting people down to the Nez Perce County Jail. So I think that one way or another, if the jail does close, we need to look at how to work with the county to share the obligations, because it is, under code, their obligation to provide a jail, not ours. So yeah, those are my thoughts about it. But I would say, yeah, it sounds like it's a little premature.
Unless someone else wants it. Okay.
My comments are coming.
Okay, cool. I know it is not our decision whether or not this jail closes or not. I understand that is in the county's jurisdiction, but I hear you, Julia. I don't even want to talk about what the cost sharing looks like. My cheese is so grilled about this because I take issue with what seems to be complete cop out, pun intended, I guess, claiming that the city is telling the county that the jail has to close. I'm really having a hard time with this. We are too small of a community. We know the county, we know the city budgets operate on a shoestring, and I have a really, really hard time understanding what the staff has put together very clearly and in a clear timeline manner. I have a really hard time seeing that, digesting it, and then trying to piece together how the heck we got to hearing at a commissioner meeting that it's even on the table that it should be closed. I'm thanks to staff for helping put this timeline together. I don't want to ask that of MPD, and what I guess I'm having a really hard, I have said it before in a different setting. I look for collaborative leaders in these settings, and I'm not getting that here right now from the county, and I'm really surprised by that. And I'm not loving the finger pointing aspect of it. And I guess
we have ample opportunity for any other avenue to talk about hard issues like this before whether or not it's an election season or not. Like I'm really frustrated that there's clearly some politicking going on. But we are all equal shareholders and stakeholders in this community. I understand that the county is going to be motivated to save money where they can, but spinning a fire inspection that they asked the city to do after many years of no findings, and seeing the report, we received this report from staff, from the fire marshal, our fire folks with the findings, and they are relatively minor. So I'm having a really hard time stomaching even talking about cost sharing ideas thanks to Chief Dollinger for doing that, the back of the envelope math, but it shouldn't even have come to this, is kind of where I'm at. So that's just the first pass. Sorry. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
One question just for follow-up. We talked about how much it would cost the city to transport the arrestees down to Lewiston, somewhere $105,000 a year, more or less. What would be the minimums that it would cost to remedy the issues in the jail as it stands?
So the 105,000 for transport would be a short-term position. I think long-term, because I don't know that there's a plan to replace this facility in any near-term horizon. So I think in reality, if we're looking at this, it's probably closer to 375,000 per year the city would incur.
375,000
per year. If we had to hire 3 additional officers to staff up the shifts so that we did not have to depend upon off-duty officers to remain on call to be able to do transport services. I just don't think that long-term morale or just for the health of our officers is the best solution. Now, the cost of repair, I heard some numbers thrown around at the county commissioners meeting included the alarm and the suppression system and some electrical upgrades. I think it was just under 500,000, I think was the cost that was identified during that meeting. That did not include the gate conversation. I think they were looking at potential costs there. And I think the sheriff and the jail staff were going to look at doing some research to look at what the cell gates would be. Again, we're not requiring that, but I think that was one of those pieces of information the commissioners wanted. I think the commissioners wanted to understand the transport costs that they'd have back and forth for either jail or for their own arrest. And I think they're asked their staff to work on developing that information as well. But I think, it was just under $500,000 of cost to remedy everything that was identified in the inspection report.
So pretty much incomplete data as yet on the entire issue.
Sounds like. I had a follow-up question to the mayors. I will agree wholeheartedly and nauseatingly with, not for agreeing.
Yeah, that we're here.
But I'm just dreadfully disappointed by this mess. The question that I had for you, Bill, and maybe Officer Sieverding too, the Nez Perce, do we know it can take $250 a year? Is it big enough? Have we talked to them?
So the average census of the jail, as reported during the commissioners meeting, is 22 prisoners. So that's 250 arrests, but a lot of those individuals may be booked and released the next day. So a lot of them may not stay in jail for a long period of time. So the average census population in the county jail is 22 prisoners. Is their average count
Per year?
per day?
Time.
Every day,
Daily,
on
okay,
average, they have
okay.
22 prisoners in the jail. They have
Okay.
capacity for 35 or 36. So they're just a little bit over,
Okay.
2/3 of their capacity right now. It's my understanding the county's already been talking with Nez Perce County about contracts for the service. And I think they've indicated that they currently do have additional capacity there.
For our 22 or however many.
That's my understanding. I've not had direct, that was what was, I think, represented during the commissioners meeting.
Okay.
I got nothing.
I mean, I'm waiting for Drew to go because I know that and I'm probably going to agree with a lot of things that Drew says. So try to put you on the spot.
Yeah, so I just for record sent an email to council, my fellow colleagues. I've been pretty fired up about this, so I'll try to stay level-headed. But I am happy to have lots of conversations with members of our community about this. I think this is bad leadership that we're seeing from the county. We're partners in trying to govern in Latah County. And they flat out ignored the largest city in the county by doing this. So I understand that there's pressure and there's a building that hasn't been well maintained, but that's underneath their stewardship, not ours. And so the events that this occurred, they're fabricating and making up things and using the city of why they need to close it down. That's wrong. Flat out wrong, period. I don't care how you want to look at it. From my professional background, looking at it, using anytime you invite a building inspector, they're going to come. And then and especially since there has been this long-standing agreement with the state and they've been coming, they've been doing this. This is as a representative of the city, being elected by the city, I feel like they're using the city. And I can say that with my platform. And if they want to reach out and have a personal conversation, I welcome it any day. Even more with that, why are they not being partners is my biggest question. Why? I need an answer to that. Why have they waited so long? Why wasn't there a plan that discussed multiple options that considered, besides, we're just going to shut it down and not really think about the effects to our partners, but how can we find a solution to get through this? That's what partners do, period. And by just shutting something down without having conversations, that's terrible. And then not the effect of what that's going to do to other communities in our area, just not even Moscow. I'm curious from my perspective. We all know that I'm not an attorney, and thank goodness for that. But by code, I'm just wondering, isn't it the sheriff's duty to have a jail? And so I'm curious why us closing it down, what that does from a county perspective. But I'm not a commissioner, so I'll leave that up to them and their homework. And then furthermore, we want to be partners in this, and I appreciate our city staff for doing a really good job about following this. We've been communicating. They've kept us informed. Why hasn't the county kept us informed and the other people in the county? The fact that these retrofits that need to occur, I get there's money involved with that, but there's not a plan involved with that. It's just simply shutting it down. It's unfortunate. And I don't know, but maybe this is a blessing that's happening during election season.
I don't have much to add other than what my counselors have added, my colleagues up here have added. I think that collaboration is the way to go on solving complex issues. And it seems like a whole half, if not a major part of where collaboration could have been had was just ignored from the conversation. And that's very frustrating. And I think that all of us would love to advocate and fight for continuing to make our community safe in ways of supporting not only our community, but the resources within our community to keep us safe. And it just seems that by spreading it even more thin is clearly that's going to hurt the community. And as Drew was saying, it's going to hurt the surrounding communities. And it's really unfortunate that we're in a place that is the potential future. And so whatever I think we can do, clearly it seems, to be part of these conversations, to advocate for not going down to Nez Perce. Like, I think we're all happy to be part of those conversations. So, but I echo sentiments that have been shared.
Listening to all of this, the end of this says, what's the proposed action? And it just says receive report and provide staff with direction. And in my opinion, this is a very strange time for this to have happened. It seems like while there are some issues, these issues have been here for a long time, and the fact that they're happening right now makes me just want to wait a little bit to see where we go. So my direction would be, that was a really good feedback. Please keep us posted on if the commissioners decide to meet on this and decide and make a decision, because we probably won't know about it because clearly we're not informed. But it'd be great to know what they're thinking about. Good luck, city staff, whoever that might be, with figuring out what that might be. So thank you for the good report, probably not good report. Appreciate the time and effort that went into this, and maybe we can look back on this again, say January. Go from there.
So any other comments on direction to staff?
I'm listening to everybody up here, and collaboration takes two sides willing to collaborate. And right now we've got one. And I know that you have reached out. I know it has been a consistent, let's clarify this stance and let's talk another thing and let's get a cover letter on this letter. But maybe it's time to extend a invitation, a formal invitation from the council to the commissioners for some sort of public meeting where we can talk this out. Now, can it be in January? I'm fine with that too. But we can't collaborate if there's only one side doing it. And so I think we gotta, before we start talking about cost sharing, before we start talking about 22 guys down in Nez Perce, we need the other half of this bargain to be in public and have these conversations with us. And I know you've made the efforts. I know, I've heard, I hear it, and I know that it's happened. But I think we gotta ask one more time.
Mr. Mayor, I've got a follow-up for Bill. So I guess I'm not opposed to waiting until January. What I don't want is for the county to issue their 30-day closure thing, because whether or not this is heard, being the commissioners or the sheriff's staff or whoever the budget people are making those decisions. So I think you're probably right that election season is not the right time to be, it's not ideal, but I would love to better understand what is the latest indication from the county commissioners? Is 30 days still on the table, or can we be asking for a much clearer explicit statement from the county saying we are not going to be closing the jail in 30 days? Or because I don't want to be facing these numbers that Chief Dollinger and everyone put together. But if there is a reality that we're going to have to, I can't understand how real the threat is right now, because it still just feels like a threat.
So what, as I mentioned before, I think they're still in the fact-finding stage. So it was clear there's no decision been made.
Okay.
The commissioners requested additional information from the sheriff's department to understand cost and some of the transport costs to be able to have that information. I thought it was important for us to identify the cost we would incur.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I guess as everybody has provided their comment this evening, I think it's clear, at least in the short term, our goal would be hoping to keep the jail open, right? And to hope to avoid those transport and the costs that we'd incur and the impacts that would result from that. If the council's committed to working with the county to try to facilitate that, again, I think some modest contribution might be helpful in their consideration, or some modest idea of whether the city would be willing to sit at the table and to address this if we had some assurances the jail would remain open for a period of time while they look to identify a solution, the long-term solution. So I think it'd be helpful for us to be able to communicate with the county that there is an interest from the council to partner to continue to ensure the jail can remain open in at least, and when I say short term, I'm in the 5 to 10 year time period while they work on that long-term solution. I think it's easy for us to justify some level of investment as just cost avoidance of what we anticipate that we would incur if that was to happen. Anything we can do to try to help incentivize, encourage a solution that allows the jail to remain open for that period of time while they work towards that long-term solution. That's, if we can get the general consensus council, and we're not committing ourselves to anything at this point in time, but just the willingness to have a conversation to try to identify something that would be mutually beneficial to both the city and the county and help us avoid the impacts we think this will have upon us. That's kind of the direction we're hoping to receive from, or at least I am personally hoping to receive from the county. Just an openness to have this conversation. We're not committing to anything this evening, but that is a direction we'd like to engage with the commissioners.
Yeah, I think that's fair. And Mr. Mayor, just one last follow-up. I mean, just for the avid viewers at home and in the room, the findings from the city inspection, the jail's not getting condemned. They are relatively minor findings that previously had not been noted. that could be remedied
Easily.
easily. And I'm sensing, I can't speak for everyone behind the bench, but I would like to say that I have a fair amount of confusion why the findings in that inspection would be triggering this kind of conversation right now. Also, I will be head over heels to rally behind the conversation when we want to talk about passing a jail bond. I get it. But this is weird power wielding, and I really don't enjoy that this is what we're using to have the conversation start about a new jail or court facility. Sorry,
And
thanks.
I do want to recognize there are some other dimensions beyond just our inspection. There's the state jail inspector and certifying the facility, which you have to pass the fire inspection for that to occur. You have the impact that has upon their ability to insure the facility with ICRIM. We understand there are complexities here, but we think there are solutions that we can work toward. And we know it's not the long-term, solution, but it's something that gives us time to
Great.
help partner for that long-term solution.
Sandra?
Sorry.
I would say, in my opinion, and my belief is, I want to see it at that table, right? I think we need to be there. I think it's almost silly that we have to say, hey, we'd like a seat at this table, but okay, we like that. And the possibility of providing some sort of incentive, I'm not opposed to that either, because we're spending money one way or the other. But I want to be really careful on how much money we spend or offer, because generally speaking, we have a good relationship with the county. And this really galls me to find that we don't right now. And I want to change that, but I also don't want to just like lay down and say, oh gosh, it's all right. I know we're having a bad day, right? I want a seat at the table, but I want it to be a loud and important and vocal seat. And I want to make sure we're spending our dollars wisely. And so happy to have that seat, but a cautionary seat.
Julia?
Oh, I think I have a motion.
Well, I have one more
We
thing
don't
to
really need
say.
it, just point.
I have one more thing to say before the motion. We are not the only city that needs to be at the table. We are a 9 or 10 community county. And I feel very strongly that the other cities ought to be at the table as well. Now, what we have responsibility for is getting our own selves to the table. But I think this is a broader conversation than just us and the county.
True.
I'll make it quick. I think I agree with what Gina said, but what she was saying earlier as well is we need, everyone's saying it, I should say this, but the fact that we're driving this and trying to communicate, my question is, I guess, to the mayor and Bill is, what is the best way to get this going? Do we, I think we're all in agreement that we don't wait, but is it, we need to send them a reminder email to watch this meeting, or is it, what's,
Staff can certainly reach out to the
okay.
commissioners and appropriate staff. And if the indication is council would like to partner with the county and have a conversation about strategies and opportunities to keep the jail open for at least a period of time, we'd be happy to forward that message.
Okay. 'Cause I don't think I'm the right person to reach out to them, but
No, we
Staff's happy
can
to do
take it up,
Yep.
up the hill, as it were. So anyway, we don't really need a motion or anything, just the direction for city staff and myself to push forward on enhancing the communication with the county commissioners about the issue of the jail and try to achieve some kind of a collaborative solution to keep things going without rapid, hasty decisions.
And on that, I just have a clarifying question, just to make sure. That means that when you're having your conversation and come up with stuff, the amount of money that we spend will come back to us before any of it is spent, correct? We
Oh,
will
sure.
have-
Yeah,
I
yeah.
just wanted to-
Council,
Great question.
council's going to have to review anything
Yes.
Thank you,
that
Sam.
comes
So this
forward
is
for
just
partnership.
establishing the communication
Staff does not have that authorization.
and making the points that we've heard here tonight.
I guess my further clarification, Mr. Mayor, is not just sending this message to the county commissioners, but also to the sheriff's department, because
Well, it does say the sheriff will provide. Yeah.
Right.
just clarifying that I picture two main entities that need to hear this message. So
Good point. Yep. Okay, got what we need?
Yes. Thank you.
Okay, we do. Great.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, do you want to skip reports?
Oh, no, we got time here
It's only
tonight.
8:30, shoot.
I know they do.
So reports.
Again, it's a short one for me, PBAC. As I sat excitedly ready to hit the button on my machine that took me into Zoom, guess what happened?
No computer.
It's actually canceled for this past month. So I was seriously rejected. There's no tree commission. There's no nothing. Maybe Halloween will be the high point.
That's always a high point other than St. Patrick's Day.
Okay.
Okay.
Keep rolling.
All right. So thanks to my pal Haley over there.
For going.
I got to sit in on the Transportation Commission meeting and I really enjoyed it. We had really great conversations about, I had I had a few questions and I tried not to ask too many since it wasn't my commission, but we talked about electric bikes again, talked about scooters and regulations and it was fascinating and I appreciated that. And I think Cody's probably glad that I tried to rein in my questions. I was so excited. I'm like, I'm double dipping today because it was like transportation and then arts commission. And I'm sitting there at the table and they started moving the tables. I'm like, oh, is art commission's canceled? They're like, no, Sandra, that was Tuesday. So I missed it. Yep, I just missed it. So I'm really sorry about that. I was all ready to be there for the long haul. And then the next meeting I had was a fire meeting and it was canceled. And I had been at another meeting and so I didn't have the taxes. So I got to the Zipleys and I pulled in and I just had a meeting with someone. I'm like, oh, I'm going to be late. And there's one truck in the parking lot. And I went, is it the wrong day again? So I texted the chief. He's like, oh, sorry, Sandra, we just canceled that out. And I just hadn't seen it yet. So I didn't go to that one. That wasn't a miss on my part. It was just canceled. I did have a chance to go with the mayor and with Drew to the LDS State Conference where they had leadership. I was going to say change. I guess it is a change, but divided it into two stakes. So that's exciting for them. And then Great Farmers Market, been able to do a little market work out and see all the things going on there. So it's been a great fall so far.
Mhm.
Oh, and it was a really great Saturday football as well.
Oh, yeah.
Very fun, very fun.
Julia, what you got?
Oh, can I add one more quick thing?
Oh,
I'm
yes, you
sorry.
may.
I'm sorry. I was trying to grab it back. And that the Moscow Bears boys soccer team is going to state.
That's mine.
I'm sorry.
Rebuttal?
I take it back.
Rebuttal.
I know
Let's
nothing
not do
about
that.
soccer.
All right.
You can put on the
Well,
win.
I also had my meeting canceled this last week, the Sustainable Environment Commission. I did get to go to the University of Idaho Leadership Breakfast this week, and I got to go to the Native American Student Association movie on Indigenous Peoples Day, which was awesome. It's called Fancy Dance at the Kenworthy, and missed the football game. But I did want to say go Bears because the boys soccer team is going to state. Oh, and we have chamber this week and the ASUSC.
Why do you do this to me?
I'm sorry. I meant we have Chamber of Commerce this week on Wednesday.
Yes,
Be there.
Yeah.
exactly.
What's happening on what is it?
It's the Chamber of Commerce luncheon
Luncheon,
and
okay.
candidate forum for state offices.
Look at my
Drew,
Yeah, so I was at the last council meeting, so a little bit of catch up to do on updates. But Pathways Commission had their annual walk. Well, from everything that I heard this past week for Mira, we had folks from Architectural and Engineering Services present about their new master plan for the campus for Smith Group and just long-term planning and how we're going to coordinate a growing town, being U of I, being a big collaborator, part of that. So that was good information to have there. And then also Pathways meeting was canceled. And then I haven't gone to, which I believe it's canceled because it's on Halloween for the Parks and Rec.
It's a meeting on Parks and Rec.
That's going to be
Mean and wrong,
It's going to be
right?
wrong. So, but those folks are very passionate, engaged there, and just been coaching a lot of Pee Wee soccer right now, and the Silver Cheetahs are undefeated. Humble brag. So
Name, image, and likeness
Yeah.
deals coming soon.
yeah, so it's they're good. Yeah.
Bryce, what you got?
I can't follow the Silver Cheetahs. That was good.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Come watch them. They're playing tomorrow.
All
so.
right, nice. Hopefully stay undefeated. Since the last council, I've been pretty busy. The day after council, I went down to the Downtown Business Association meeting down at the Chamber of Commerce in the morning to hear a presentation from Kate. She's with Lift Local Idaho, which is a group trying to get a conversation going about local option sales tax. And so she was presenting to various business leaders here in the downtown district, which I thought was a really good presentation and nice to make some connections there. The day after, I had planning and zoning where we approved a rezone and a preliminary plat in the county. And then the following day, I went to the Kenworthy to see Napoleon Dynamite, which turned 20 this year. But it's kind of wild. But the reason why I mention it, it was actually also part of a Reels for Meals program to help kind of address food insecurity within the community, sponsored by the United Way, in particular, working with the Moscow School District. So it was a pretty cool cause. And the movie holds up. If you haven't seen it in 20 years, highly recommend it. Again, shot down in Preston, Idaho. And yeah, it was very enjoyable. Last week I had Human Rights Commission, where they approved the sponsorship of Native American Heritage Month, which there's an event scheduled on November 13th at the 1912 Center. And then along with a couple of others up here, we attended the regional meeting for the Association of Idaho Cities last Wednesday at the Best Western, and heard various presentations, and it was really it was a really informative day, and I was happy to be there. And to speak of cancellations, planning and zoning is canceled this Wednesday. And I will shed a tear at the last market this Saturday.
So
But maybe
relative to the Napoleon Dynamite and Razor for Food, does that include tots?
They literally were selling tots.
Genius.
They had like a little air fryer off to the side selling tots.
Genius.
Sweet.
Mine are pretty short. Thanks to Sandra for covering while we were gone out of town for vacation. Attended the leadership town hall with Julia, and it was described as kind of an open forum, but it was much more of us just like consuming a lot of high level information and plans, some really cool stuff about the dairy plans that the U of I is pursuing in not Jerome, maybe Rupert.
It's that area. Yep.
Rupert Burley.
Cafe.
And a really cool veteran and military outreach facility pipe dream thing. Anyway, so it was great to hear from U of I in a marathon of presentations. Had a smart transit board meeting. Our new executive director is a familiar face, likely to many, is Casey Green, formerly a retired Moscow police officer, who was my school resource officer when I was at the high school, and then he was my school resource officer when I was at U of I. And so now I get to work with him again, so hopefully he's not sick of me yet. But so far, so good. He's been, our number one directive to him as a board is to get the fleet, get a fleet replacement plan in place, and then just really make sure that the wheels are staying on. Smart transit, as it were. Yes. So all good things there. Went to the U of I women's soccer game in the Dome. I kind of forgot now that everything's in the Dome. You don't have to freeze your tush out at Guy Wicks. And they won, which was great. They beat Weaver State. Went to the Vandal game on Saturday. And then earlier today I was at the Moscow School District Board of Trustees are doing I think monthly or bi-monthly coffee dates where 2 of them are available, which means they're not violating open meeting laws, but they're trying to do what they can to be accessible. And so got to stop by and visit with them and ask a couple of questions. And just a reminder that the Gritman Pink Tea Pink Cocktail fundraiser event is tomorrow at the Best Western. So yeah, love this town. All's good.
Cool. Everybody's covered pretty much everything I was up to where we overlapped with all of these meetings that went on. But just by way of looking forward a little bit, November 11th, we have the Girl Scouts here again to do the pledge. And for those of us up here and staff people, November 19th from 5 to 7 here in City Council chambers is the annual city version of the town gown. So
Good.
we'll have ASUI, the GPSA, various university leadership and city leadership meeting about issues of joint interest.
What date did you say, Mr. Mayor?
19th.
Thank you.
So anything from staff? Okay, hearing that, we will now adjourn to executive session per Idaho Code 74-206 1F, and the meeting will not reconvene. Do I hear a meeting to so adjourn?
Need roll call.
Meeting to sojourn.
Okay, second?
Second.
Okay, Drew?
Aye.
Aye.
No, he's not
That's
Drew.
Bryce.
Bryce?
Let me introduce
Drew,
you
you
to Bryce.
did a good job, though. You responded.
Okay,
I showed my-
Bryce eyes, yes.
Julia,
Aye.
Gina, Sandra,
Aye.
Bryce? Drew, yes.
Haley's and I.
okay, okay, we're adjourned, won't reconvene.
I-
Thank you all.
I looked at someone